It's an investigation involving allegations of official misconduct, sexual favors, and the Shepherdsville mayor.
Only on WDRB, Valerie Chen walks us through a story that is 5 months in the making, explaining what several women are now claiming.
Accusations of promises in exchange for sexual favors. The investigation underway involving the Shepherdsville mayor.
Currently, we have 3 females that have come forward that have brought forward sexual allegations involving his public office.
Serious allegations involving Shepherdsville Mayor Scott Ellis, seen here at last month's city council meeting. The Bullitt County Sheriff's Department launched its investigation about 5 months ago.
There's allegations that he used his office for gain of a sexual nature with these females.
The Sheriff's Department says Ellis is accused of making promises to a woman on parole and a former employee in exchange for sexual favors. Investigators say he promised one woman he could get her a pardon from the governor. The Sheriff's Department says a third woman, also a former employee, says Ellis propositioned her, but she refused.
My understanding is that one of the incidents may have occurred in the mayor's office.
Investigators say the incidents happened over the past 1.5 to 2 years. The Sheriff's Department says Ellis would correspond with the women electronically, and that is part of the evidence. Mayor Ellis is married and has 2 children.
I'm with WDRB. I'm here to talk to Mayor Ellis.
Honey, he's not here.
But it turns out he was inside. And a little later, WDRB caught up with him.
No problem, but I have nothing to say.
Earlier, he told WDRB over the phone never was there a promise in exchange for anything. Some Shepherdsville City Council members say they've known about the allegations for a while.
I want to hear the truth, for one thing. And if the allegations that have been made are accurate and true, I think the honorable thing for him to do would be to resign.
I know Mayor Ellis, and I think that from what information I do know, it appears that he made some bad decisions involving this, and hopefully Mr. Ellis and these victims can move forward from this, and our county also.
Has he admitted to wrongdoing?
I can't go into exactly what all he's admitted to, but I know that he has spoke with investigators.
Ellis says, I just pray that it doesn't involve my family, and we just pray to God and see what happens. It is in God's hands.
The charge potentially could be official misconduct and arranging it from there, depending on what all the Commonwealth Attorney or the grand jury decides at that time.
Mayor Ellis is in his 2nd term in office. In Shepherdsville, Valerie Chen, WDRB News.
Thanks for joining us today. I'm Elizabeth Woolsey.
And I'm Gilbert Corsi. Promises and prostitution. The accusations swirl around the mayor of Shepherdsville, who was indicted today by a grand jury.
WDRB's Valerie Chen shows us what happened when we tried to talk to the mayor about it. Valerie?
The judge read the misdemeanor indictment here at the Bullitt County Judicial Center. The Sheriff's Department says the investigation is far from over.
Court has received an indictment against Scott Ellis, a.k.a. Raymond S. Ellis III, charging the offense of criminal solicitation to prostitution.
The Bullitt County Sheriff's Department has been investigating Shepherdsville Mayor Scott Ellis since last December. Around the same time, WDRB began investigating the story. After Ellis's indictment, we went to his City Hall office.
Here's Mayor Ellis.
Not here. He went home for lunch and he hasn't came back.
So we went to his house, and before we got to the door, anything you can say to tell your side of the story? We want to make sure that...
I have no comment. I have no comment.
Investigators say there are hundreds of pages of text messages, reportedly between the mayor and an alleged victim.
Soliciting prostitution. Obviously, the grand jury thought there was enough to charge him with that, so just have to see where it goes from there and on into the court system.
The Sheriff's Department says 3 women have come forward alleging Ellis made certain promises in exchange for sexual favors. The Sheriff's Department says out of the 3 alleged victims, one is a woman on parole who he promised to get a pardon from the governor. Another is a former employee. The Sheriff's Department says a third woman is also a former employee, but says Ellis propositioned her and she refused.
What shocked you the most about this case?
I don't think anything really shocks me anymore with cases, but knowing the person in that, it's difficult to think something like that could happen, but in today's times, you never know.
Last month, one of the alleged victims filed a discrimination lawsuit against Ellis and the city, claiming Ellis repeatedly sexually harassed her and wanted to trade for sexual favors. Some Shepherdsville City Council members say the allegations against the mayor are a distraction to the city.
I can tell you that I think it's having a negative effect on our city, and you know, I'm very concerned about that. And I think that the one way that could be helped a little bit maybe is for him to resign.
We are still doing some investigation. It's not over. There obviously could be more charges on down the road, but right now that's what we presented to the grand jury, so we'll just see from here where it goes.
The mayor's arraignment is scheduled for August 11th. Live in Shepherdsville, Valerie Chin, WDRB News.
Good evening and thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm David Scott.
And I'm Tamara Evans in for Lindsay Allen. The Shepherdsville City Council wants Mayor Scott Ellis to resign after a recent prostitution charge.
WDRB's Ryan Cummings explains how it looks like it's only a matter of time until Ellis says he's gone.
Tonight's vote was basically a request asking Mayor Scott Ellis to step down, and he says he is in the process of looking for another job, and when he finds one, he will resign. In this letter dated August 10th, Shepherdsville Mayor Scott Ellis says he is actively in search of another job and upon employment will step down. He also asked the council to delay its vote regarding that resignation, but Tuesday night, council members approved it.
All in favor?
Ellis was not at Tuesday's meeting because his mother was having surgery. Investigators allege he made promises to 3 women in exchange for sexual favors, but he denies that. Council members say the prostitution charge is hurting their city.
If an elected official is indicted, then we have to let the public trust down.
Some residents agree.
You have to think of the citizens, what's best for our city, and we're not going to get restaurants to come. We're not going to get businesses to come out here if they think that we have a cloud hanging over our head.
Councilwoman Gloria Taft, one of 2 who voted against the resolution, said she didn't know that the resolution letter even existed until Monday afternoon.
None of the other council members emailed me. They never called me. They never texted me. Nothing. I have no idea. I have no idea why my constituents didn't include me. Why they chose to completely exclude me is a good question for them.
Councilmember Dana James also voted against it, saying she doesn't know all the facts, and she's not happy with the news coverage of the Ellis case.
I do believe that a person should be tried in a court and not in the media. You stand here to try somebody within the news, and that's not your place either.
Is there anything in Kentucky law that you could do to push him out?
Probably not on a misdemeanor charge. I'm not aware of any. And I don't, until we would talk with the attorney and see what legally the KRS says, I'm not sure on that.
Once the mayor steps down, the city council has 30 days to appoint a new mayor. In Shepherdsville, Ryan Cummings, WDRB News.
Just moments ago, Scott Ellis' wife, April, defended him in messages to WDRB News. She says, quote, Scott is not resigning because he's guilty, but because it's just not worth it anymore. She defended his record in office and blamed others for his current troubles.
Embarrassed for both himself and his family.
Well, that's how Shepherdsville Mayor Scott Ellis is feeling, according to his attorney. WDRB's Valerie Chin explains who's trying to keep information about his prostitution case out of the public eye.
Shepherdsville Mayor Scott Ellis was not in court. Because it's a misdemeanor charge, he does not have to be present at all.
That's an assumption that he's avoiding cameras. Of course he's embarrassed because of the nature of the charges.
Does your client wish to enter a plea today?
Yes, Your Honor, we'll enter a plea of not guilty at this time.
That's a plea that John Cook, the mayor's attorney, entered for Scott Ellis's misdemeanor solicitation to prostitution charge. The prosecution says it's now turning over copies of evidence in the case.
There are volumes of material apparently to look through, so I'm anxious to get my hands on it and see what we're really dealing with.
Punishment range for a Class B misdemeanor is $250 top max for a fine and 90 days in up to 90 days in jail.
Cook thinks Ellis is being unfairly targeted for a charge he says is one step above a traffic violation. Investigators say the mayor made promises to 3 women in exchange for sexual favors. Some city council members want Ellis to resign. The mayor wrote a letter saying he'll do that after he finds a new job.
But if he says he's not guilty, why give in and resign?
Well, why should he? I mean, there's no requirement to resign. There are many people in public offices that have had prior misdemeanor convictions, DUIs, traffic violations.
Even though the mayor says he'll resign, his attorney says Ellis is still weighing his options. City Councilwoman Gloria Taft, who was the only one who didn't sign a letter asking Ellis to leave, is trying to get 2 council members removed, Bernie Brown and Larry Hatfield. She filed this ethics complaint against them, saying they released information to the public about the case before all council members were aware of what was happening. The pair deny that. Taft is asking the ethics committee to punish them to the fullest extent of the law, up to and including removing them. Hatfield says the public deserves to know what is happening.
What's your hope for this case? Do you want it to go to trial?
We'll see. It's hard for me to give an opinion on the facts until I know what the Commonwealth has in its possession.
Ellis's next court date is on September 29th. In Shepherdsville, Valerie Chin, WDRB News.
A plea deal offered today to Shepherdsville Mayor Scott Ellis, who is charged in a prostitution scandal. In a story you'll see only on WDRB, the attorneys met behind closed doors for about 15 minutes and decided they're going to trial instead.
The case of Shepherdsville Mayor Scott Ellis is back in court, but absent the mayor himself.
At this point, we'd like to go ahead and set it for a jury trial.
Ellis is not required to be in court for the misdemeanor charge of solicitation to prostitution. He has maintained he's innocent. Ellis didn't accept the prosecutor's plea offer, and now attorneys on both sides are preparing for a November trial.
What was the plea offer?
I really don't want to disclose that at this time. He's anxious. He'd like to put this behind him. Obviously, this is something that comes up every few weeks now, and it's an embarrassing situation, and he'd like to get this behind him. That's why we didn't delay a trial for a long period of time.
The Bullitt County Sheriff's Department says 3 women have come forward, saying Ellis made unwanted sexual advances, abusing his public position. Investigators say the discovery, which is the evidence, includes hundreds of pages of text messages between the mayor and an alleged victim.
Based on the discovery I've seen, we're not interested in pleading to anything. So regardless of offer, I'm not going to ask my client to plead guilty to something he didn't do.
Ellis said he'd resign as mayor once he finds a new job.
My advice to him will be to not resign.
And why?
Because I don't think he's committed a crime, and I think he's done an excellent job as mayor. He's brought the city back from the brink of bankruptcy.
One of the alleged victims also filed a discrimination lawsuit against Ellis and the city, claiming Ellis repeatedly sexually harassed her and offered to take care of her if she wanted to trade for sexual favors. She was later fired. Ellis's attorney thinks the mayor can get a fair trial, but says there will be a larger jury pool than normal.
Things that have happened in his personal life may be a problem, but that doesn't necessarily eliminate his ability or limit his ability to be mayor.
Ellis's trial is scheduled for November 13th.